Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us live from MAHSA University, Saujana Putra. I am Ms. Jasmine Lazarus from the Center for Education and Language, and I will be moderating today's session. Before we start, I would like to advocate a little bit about our center and the courses that we offer. We consist of three main programs, which is early childhood education, teaching English as a second language, and intensive English. So we also consist, attached here is actually our entry requirement for the programs. And why choose our MAHSA University is because we consist of a lot of different teaching and learning processes which takes place in our university. And we have experienced and dedicated academic staffs which uses a lot of interactive modes of teaching. And we also have various modes of recognition from MQA. And shown here is the scholarships that we offer. So we look forward to those who intend to join us as we are always open for further inquiries. So without further ado, today's webinar is titled Using Literature to Teach English Language, hosted by Mr. Panchanathan from the Center of Education and Language, who is very experienced himself with the methods and applications of literature. So Mr. Pancha, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Ms. Jasmine. A very good morning to each and every one of you. Today, I'm going to take you to a journey of literature at MAHSA University. All right, the topic for today's webinar is using literature to teach English language. Right? So, literature has always been a very important component of a language. And I've formulated some questions as guidelines for my whole talk. I have questions like, what is literature? I'll deal with that first. How can we classify literature? And what are the particular set of objectives for students of literature? And what are some of the criteria for the selection or choice of literary texts to be taught in schools and at tertiary education? How should literature be used in the English language classroom? And what are the literary devices, and which is quite important, very important, commonly used by writers in literature? And finally, what are some of the activities that can be carried out in the English language classroom using literature? Right? So I will address all the questions here, and hopefully by the end of the talk, you might have a fairly good idea about literature in the English language classroom. Right. We'll go on to the first one. Yeah. Yeah, the definition of literature. Let's look at it. It's the totality of written and printed works based on criteria of imaginative, creative, and artistic value. Yeah, anything of value, right? Artistic value, and that needs to be preserved falls into the category of literature, not like the newspaper, which is a disposable commodity. These are preserved. And this definition has varied from over the centuries. And it also refers to both fiction and non-fiction, using artistic expressions, and considered to have the merit of being important. All right. Well, way back, I asked my mentor, right, the late Professor Lim Chi Seng, how could you summarize the whole of literature? And he told me, I'll give it to you in one word: literature is life. Right? Anything pertaining to life can be found in literature. And that is why it often refers as the imitation of life itself, a reflection of life, and writers have put them on print. All right, we'll go on. to the next question. Yeah, how can we classify literature? All right. So you need to understand the various classifications before we can proceed. All right. Right at the top, we have novels. All right. Novels are pretty long. All right. Written by novelists. A novel takes about 58,000 to 60,000 words, and they're quite lengthy and time consuming to read. Right? For example, most novels are 58,000 to 60,000 words. The longest novella in the world is written by James Joyce. It is 285,000 words. Ulysses. Ulysses is 285,000 words, which happens to be the longest novel. So we have right from 58,000 right until over 200,000. So it is too long. As time went by, they find that people don't have the time to read more. So came in the novellas. Novellas are fairly short, from 28,000 to 30,000 words. And one of the pioneers in novellas is Joseph Conrad. Right in 1895, he wrote *The Heart of Darkness*. *The Heart of Darkness*, a treasure in literature. All right, and later on, George Orwell's *Animal Farm* also falls into this category of novellas, which is about 28,000 to 30,000 words. And that also, people didn't have much time for novels and novellas. They came up with short stories. Short stories are fairly short, right? Right, not more than 3,000 words, around 2,000, around 3,000 words. Okay. Um, so there are many short story writers, right? Scott Fitzgerald have written some fantastic short stories, which you can finish in one sitting, just in one sitting, all right? And we have essays, scholastic essays, right? Academic essays started by Samuel Johnson over a few centuries ago, and the best minds have put everything in essays, which are of scholastic value. And we also have autobiographies, written by the writer himself about his life, autobiographies like D.H. Lawrence. And we have biographies, someone else written about someone else, right? Somebody else. So biographies and autobiographies also come under literature that need to be preserved. And memories are there's a flashback, all right, about something that happened in the past, can also be in written form. And followed by memoirs are some incident, some episode of the past that is ingrained in your mind, right, have been written. So memories and memoirs. Poems. Now we go into the poetic side. Before this, they are all prose. Prose. On the poetic level, we have poems. Poems are fairly short, right, consisting of a few stanzas, right, 4 or 5 stanzas. Stanzas are paragraph in prose. In poetic language, we call them stanzas. They're fairly short poems. Um, and poetry. Poetry can be fairly long, can be historical, can have traditional issues, all right? Like The Eve of St. Agnes by Robert Browning, Michael by William Wordsworth, all right? The Ancient Mariner by Samuel Taylor Coleridge, all fall under the poetry section, which are much longer. And then came drama, all right? Drama, they're actually written for the stage, not to be printed. Even William Shakespeare did not publish his plays, right? His followers did. They were written for the stage. And this word drama sounds a little dramatic. So people came out with plays. I watched a play. Very simple. Comes easy. Okay, so these are the various classification of the literature entities. Okay, we'll go on to the next topic. Yeah. So the particular set of objectives that students have towards literature, right? we can categorize them or classify them under three models, all right? Three models. The first model, understand and appreciate culture and ideologies from different countries than rather than their own. All right, so they come to know about the culture, the way of life, ideologies, the philosophies of people in other countries, all right, and thereby make a comparative study with their own, all right, and more than that, they do have a good understanding of humanity, of human values, and they realize that some of the values are universal, right? For example, love, right? Discipline, um, neighborliness, and things like that. They are universal. So that is the first category. Well, the second category is the language model, which you all fall into, right? Learning literature, promote language development and creative use of language. Creative use of language. I think we all fall into this category. And the next one is the personal growth model, which is beyond the classroom. You derive enjoyment, joy uh, in literature, in reading literature. Right? I was in this group, right? Just enjoying literature. And later on, I decided to do something professional. Well, we go on to the next question, answer the next question. Mm, yeah, it is. We will address the first pop question. Some criteria for the choice of literary text. All right. We can say selection of literary text. What kind of literary text should you choose, right, to be taught or to be brought to the classroom? Um, there is the breadth and the depth approach in the selection of literary text. The breadth is a wide variety. You choose a number of texts, a number of writers, right? A number of poems, poets, and then we don't go deep into the text, but rather in passing, just get to know them, right? The storyline and what are the outstanding events, the characters, and things like that. Well, as for the other one, the other approach, the depth approach, not too many texts, one or two texts, or three or four, and we go deep into it. All right. Like for instance, in the Form 6 exam that I took, right, we had three papers. Paper one was poetry and prose appreciation. Paper two, two Shakespeare, just two, one comedy and one tragedy, and then four selected poets. That's all. All right. So that was a depth approach. So you can choose either one. All right. But it's always better to go to the depth approach, where you go deep into the text and discover the plumb into the knowledge of great writers. And we must choose texts which are not beyond the comprehension of the students. We should pitch the lessons or pitch the text according to the knowledge and experience of the students so that they might enjoy it, right? They're not something that is beyond their comprehension, but comprehensible. And they should be able to identify or relate to their experience, to their thoughts and situations, which will be more relevant, right? They should be able would be able to enjoy the text. Apart from that, it should offer support and stimulus for language development, right? But that is our motive, all right? The idea of bringing literature into the classroom, the English language classroom, is to support the English language lessons, right? And talking about the types of text, we do have the simplified version, the abridged version, and the original text. For instance, the simplified text in the Malaysian context, schools can be for the lower secondary simplified text, lower secondary 0 form 1, form 2, and the abridged version can be for the form 3s, and the original text you can start with form 4 and form 5 and right on, right? For instance, when I did Silas Mann, right? Silas Mann and George Eliot, uh, when I was in the Lower secondary, I did the simplified form, and then when I was Form 3, the abridged version, and then later on, I did the original text, right? That is a progression that you should take. Otherwise, you just introduce the original text right from the start, students might be put off. Next, we ought to stimulate interest to read between the lines. All right. So literary writings, right? They have the surface meaning and the underlying meaning. Surface meaning and underlying meaning. All right. So students should be able to see what is explicitly stated and what is implicit. Should they should be guided towards discerning what are the underlying meaning of the text and are the objectives of the writer. And overall, it should provide enjoyment and fulfillment. And they should remember the stories, the novels and poetry, poems that they've done for the rest of their life. Right. Okay. Next one, question 5. Yeah. Now coming to the core of our webinar today, the use of literature in the English language classroom. Use of literature, right, in the English language classroom. It is the preeminent way of improving your command of English. The preeminent means the greatest way of improving your command. For a number of reasons. There are a number of reasons why I would say that it is the preeminent way. Now, it's one good way of building up a good vocabulary, right? You will come across new words, right? New words, expressive terms, and that will enhance your repertoire of interesting phrases, not only for communication, not only for writing, but also for speaking and for other purposes in general communication. Yeah, it will be a great asset when you have a huge repertoire of words, interesting phrases to write and to talk about. And students develop the reading habit. Yeah, literature involves a lot of reading, right? And I'm not saying that you should be a bookworm, but read with a purpose. Read with a purpose, and gradually you'll enjoy the text. So students should develop the reading habit. Somehow or other, if you go into literature, the reading habit will follow. Will follow, right? And with enjoyment, you'll go on. And yeah, as you're coming across new words, you'll also learn to use a dictionary, all right? And the thesaurus. Yeah, dictionary, we have, of course, it's for meaning, but you need to know the nuances of meaning, all right? The words, the subtle differences in words and meaning. And the thesaurus. Thesaurus does give you a paradigm of words related to one word, and that might tremendously improve your reading, writing, and speaking skills. And with the repertoire of the vocabulary that you have, you'll start playing word games, word building, which is an interesting and vocabulary building game. Spelling bee, your spelling will automatically improve. You're seeing new words. And after that, beyond that, you will also practice using the new words, right? Practice, and your teacher can be a great guide, or your lecturer can be a great guide towards such an end. And most importantly, if you want to remember those words, keep a record of the new words and phrases learned. All right, they might be of great joy as remembrance later on. Well, we go to the next question. Question 6. Yeah, the next one. Yeah. Beyond that, you also come across idioms and figurative expressions. Right? Idioms are words not to be taken literally, but have a natural or cultural meaning behind it. All right? Like you say, he fights like a lion. All right? Like a lion. He's as brave as a lion. So idioms, you always use the word, right? As a lion. Uh, And more important are the figurative expressions. Figurative expressions, a way of not expressing the realistic meaning. I'll come to this separately because there are a lot of devices involved in figurative expressions, which I'll go in detail in a short while. We go to the next slide. Yeah. So the number of devices used by novelists. This is where you got to take particular note or attention, mainly because this is where most readers, general readers, may be put off, right? Because novelists, short story writers, essayists, poets, and playwrights, they employ certain devices which might not be obvious to the ordinary reader unless he or she is familiar with those devices. All right. So the key to greater understanding of literary text is to be familiar with these devices. All right. So familiarity will bring about a better understanding of the text. So I've classified them under certain categories. The first one are structural devices. Structural devices, the idea of contrast. All right. Yeah. They juxtapose two different scenarios, two different reaches side by side, side by side. All right. Luxurious living and poverty. All right. Um, brightness, darkness, good, evil. So contrasting ideas juxtaposed in the story is the contrasting device. And illustration they use to clarify, to make something more something clearer and more evident. All right, illustration, maybe an example as well. And repetition, a very important device. Most poets use it. All right, keep repeating the same word, but there is a purpose, there is an objective. For example, Shakespeare's sonnet from Macbeth: tomorrow, tomorrow, and tomorrow creeps upon his petty face from day to day until the last syllable of recorded time. Well, tomorrow, tomorrow, tomorrow. It shows continuity, right? Unending, something that is going on, right? Forever. Okay, so that is the repetitive technique. Next comes the sense devices, all right? Structural, now sense devices. This is where the simile comes in. Similarly, the use of the word as and like, all right? Yeah, he is as brave as a lion, as, all right? Well, metaphor, you just say he's a lion, all right? It's a metaphor, it's a direct indication, all right? As compared to simile, we use as or like, all right? And the next one, personification, and this one you got to take note because why? Poets and writers, they give life to inanimate objects, right? Inanimate objects can become, they treat them as living entities. For example, in the poem The Daffodils by William Wordsworth, he says, I wandered lonely as a cloud, which is a simile, as a cloud, and all at once I saw a crowd, not people, but a host of golden daffodils, flowers. All right. So the flowers in a group are referred to as a crowd, as though they are people. All right. So that is the kind of writings that you see in poetic and literary writings. Personification, giving life to inanimate objects. And then we have sound devices. Sound devices, because it creates a musical effect to their writing. All right. One very evident example is from the rhyme of the Ancient Mariner by Samuel Taylor Coleridge. All right. Uh, these are the lines he wrote alliteration. Just look at the F sound here. The fair breeze flew, the white foam flew, we followed for a free. We were the first that ever burst into the silent sea. All right? You can see the prominence of sound F, right? F's and S, which shows quick movement. All right? So alliterations are very effective, and poets use them very effectively. And next comes the onomatopoeia. Onomatopoeia indicates the sound of the person or the animal there is. For example, the sound, if you say, I can hear chirping, chirping, that's the sound of birds. All right? I can hear the sound of cuckoo. Cuckoo is a cuckoo bird. All right? So it's actually with reference to the sound that object makes on onomatopoeia. And of course, rhyme are the rhyming words, right? They have the same phonetic sound right at the end of the line, rhymes. Also comes under devices, sense devices. We'll go to the next one. Yeah, assonance. Assonance are, repetitively words have got the same consonant sound, like the word bumblebee, right? Sweet 16, all right? Flying high, and all this comes under assonance, all right? And rhythm, yeah, rhythm, a definite pattern in the musical quality of the poems that they write, or poetry that they write, all right? So all these are devices that are used by poets and novelists. And the next refers to the different genre of writing, the categorization of literary writings, right? We have descriptive, of course, describing a scene, a person, a place, an event, or sequence of events, descriptive. Reflective, looking back into the past, all right, and ruminating on what has taken place, what could have taken place. Narrative, storytelling, all right, storytelling, usually about character and action, all right. And next we have lyrics. Lyrics are actually poems, right, showing the emotional aspect of poets. They are rather emotional, the lyrics, right, earning for something or displaying something emotional. And we also have sonnets. Sonnets are 14 lines 14 lines, right? Very musical. And right at the last two lines, it follows a certain pattern, right? And the last two lines, you get the essence of what that sonnet is about, right? Famous sonnets are by William Shakespeare, right? Okay, so these are some of the genres of literature. And I'm coming to the last question. Activities that can be carried out in the literature classroom, all right, or English language classroom using literature. You might be familiar with this, but just to recall and perhaps bring to life all those activities that we have done and we have heard of. The first one is silent reading, right? Silent reading is an important aspect of the reading skills, all right? You enjoy what you're reading, all right? And your eyes are moving, eye movement. Silent reading, your eye movement is very important, all right? You don't move your head, you move your eyes only, all right? So silent reading. And B, I'm sure you're all familiar with this, oral reading. Oral reading, either the lecturer or the teacher reads and then students follow, all right? Uh, in oral reading, we learn about chunking. Chunking is how do you break up a sentence, all right? How you break up a sentence. So chunking. So the teacher can be a guide towards acquiring such skill, all right? So either the teacher or the lecturer can lead oral reading, or some students can do it, all right? And the others follow. And reading aloud, the next one, reading aloud. Reading aloud is an important aspect of teaching literature because why? A lot of things are involved. When you read aloud, you got to take care of your tone, your pitch, your speed, right? Your enunciation, intonation, and you always read to an audience. All right, you read to an audience. There are people listening to you, so it's a very important activity that you can carry out. And the jigsaw reading, right? Each one reads one part of it, and then finally you connect them into a whole piece with the right sequence, right? Jigsaw. You can cut up the story and each one reads one part, and finally we join them. Uh, yeah, the next one is poetry, poetry recitation, poem recitation. All right, we can have a competition here where students memorize certain stanzas or certain short poems, right, and then recite with the right um, pronunciation, the right enunciation, the right intonation, and marks can be avoided for as to how it was delivered, right? Should have heard of that poem recitation. And same thing goes for storytelling competition. Storytelling, either the actual story, they can tell it in their own words. Right? It can be in the form of competition, or they can modify certain parts of it, make some adaptation, all right, and come up with a story similar or identical with the original one, all right. So in that way, uh, number E and F can be competitive in nature as well. Well, we go on to the next one, G. Yeah, matching. Matching, we cut up the stories, right? Cut up the stories, and we look for similarities and differences, right? Similarities and differences, and match them. That's another activity you can do. And gap filling, yeah. So a story fully written, but with blanks or gaps in between here and there. So students can fill in the appropriate words according to the flow of the story. All right, gap filling. It's also a language activity in the literature classroom. And creative writing, the next one, is where the lecturer or teacher can give some guideline questions, right? Guideline question, a topic and guideline questions, and students can start writing something creative on their own, all right? Based on what they have read and what has been taught to them. And another important skill that you can acquire through literature in the classroom is prediction skills. Yeah, a lot of things happen in narration and storytelling. So students can be tested on prediction skills. Even right, it can start right from the topic itself, right? When you give a title of the story, tell the students to predict what comes to your mind when you mention these lines, right? It can be a title, and then they can predict the outcome of the story. How will it end? And then in the end, we see really how the story ended, right? We can also go competitive. Another activity is using grids and charts. Um, so we have charts and then names of characters, names of events, and students got to fill in the blanks, fill in the blanks. All right. For example, character, certain character. What are the qualities of this character? All right. How does he differentiate one from the other? So they'll be using grids and charts. And next will be guided writing, which is quite similar to creative writing, but here they are more controlled, right? It can be a short paragraph, right? This brief introduction, a short paragraph, and that's it. Okay. And beyond that, in the class literature classroom, we can have a lot of class discussion, right? Discussion, just a question, all right? A question and open it discussion, and students give their point of view, and then do a simple write up, all right? And in relation to that one, we can also have a forum where some selected students are told to prepare a short, right, speech on based on the text, right, or poem or something, right, some point of view on a piece of on a short story or a poem, and then present it to the class, and is open to Q&A question. And by that, I think a lot of things can be learned. And last but not least, we have the dramatization. Okay, dramatization, I think, is a great thing. Right, students, every student can participate. Right, not only do they learn the techniques of drama, but writing of simple plays. Right, adapting plays to be staged. All right, it can become a great big affair. All right, dramatization. You can have a simple sketch in the class. All right, creative play, or you can have a major one where you can invite guests or audiences from outside to come and watch. All right, it can be a great affair, a grand affair, as a part of your class activity for English language using literature. There are a lot of plays and dramatic creations that can be uh, modified and used for classroom situations. Well, this is about the activities that you can carry out. Okay, I think I come to almost the end of my simple talk. Coming to the last one. Yeah, these are my parting words, just when reading literary text, I mean, when you read literature, meaning novels or plays and novellas, short stories or poems, suspend your disbelief. That means you should accept what is there first. Don't start questioning right from the beginning. All right? Just like watching a movie. All right? You can't go on questioning, oh, the hero shouldn't have done that, this fellow shouldn't have done that, this thing should have happened, this one, this is not possible. You can't talk, you can't ask questions. Just enjoy it, accept it. And then at the end, yeah, you participate imaginatively, and at the end, you can write a critical analysis of what was there, what is wrong, or how it can be improved, right? And things like that. So accept literary texts for what they are, and you'll enjoy it, right? So with that, I've come to the end of my short webinar. Thank you very much for listening. All right? Till I meet you all sometime. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pancha, for sharing. We'll now move to the Q&A session. For those who have questions concerning this webinar, please feel free to list your questions in the chat box provided. Anyway, Mr. Pancha, I actually have a question for you. So thank you for sharing. Now, you explained a lot about the activities that we as educators can portray in the classroom using literature. But what do
Okay.
you think is the main challenges that us as academicians face when using those methods to teach?
Yeah, I think in the first place, uh, students should be familiar with the text.
Mhm.
Should be familiar with the text, all right? And the teacher should uh, set good examples for them to follow, all right? Start with simple, right? Easy ones, and then go on to something more complex, all right? I think students enjoy simplicity, right? And if you have got to make them participative somehow, provide them some incentives as well. They will do it. Everybody likes acting, dramatizing, and things like that. It's just that you are not given the right motivation and incentive to do that. All right.
Yeah.
I think much depends on the lecturer or teacher itself. All right. To motivate the interest in it. Perhaps watch something which is some video clippings or things like that, which can be which can stimulate the ideas towards something that is practical in the classroom.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you, Mr. Panchab. There are no further questions asked, and with that, we will conclude today's session. So, thank you, Mr. Panchab, for sharing with us and joining us for your insightful sharing. And to
Okay.
our keen attentive viewers, thank you for joining our webinar. We look forward for your comments and participation in our future events hosted by MAHSA University. And in case you have further queries, please contact us through the MAHSA website and also visit our social media. Thank you and have a great day.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Masha, for giving me
Thank
the privilege
you.
and honor. Thank you.